What if I told you your job, your dreams, and even your failures were decided long before you were even born? Not by talent, not by luck, but by a 2000-year-old invisible chain we still drag around every single day. If you think caste was all in the past, you are greatly mistaken because this is your reality.
ऐसे नहीं होता मित्रों। मैं शासन में बैठा हूं, मुझे मालूम है इस प्रकार से किसी से गिर नहीं सकता। अरे ये नेपाल का रुपया नहीं गिरता है, बांग्लादेश की करेंसी नहीं।
A child is born. His feasts are cleansed. His cries pierce the air. But even before he opens his eye, his fate is sealed. It doesn't matter how sharp his mind is or how steady his hands are. If he is born to a potter, he will mold clay. If he is born to a priest, he will recite verses. And if he is born to those deemed untouchable, his very existence will be a curse. This is not just history. This is the very foundation on which our society was built. A system so deep rooted that it didn't need chains or whips to control people. Birth alone was the prison. And for centuries, no one escaped. Then came the wars, the revolutions, the independence movements. The world changed, the law changed, and we as a nation declared caste is no longer our reality. Really? Look again. Look at the top CEOs, the leading politicians, the decision makers of this country. Then look at those who sweep our street, clean our sewage, and break stones under the sun. Different centuries, yet the same divisions. We say caste is dead, yet it breathes in our boardrooms, our marriages, our elections. It lurks in our hiring decisions, our classroom benches, and our dinner conversations. We may not speak of it, but it still decides who climbs and who crawls. Meritocracy, hard work, or just a mask for an old evil. This is not just history. This is our present. And unless we break it, this will be our future. So, let's pull apart the layers. Let's expose the truth we never meant to see. In the grand palaces, kings relied on Brahmins to decide policies, on Kshatriyas to fight their wars, on Vaishyas to run their treasuries. And the Shudras, they built the wall of these empires, but were never allowed inside. And the untouchables, their very presence was seen as pollution. This was the India of medieval age, the land of kings and temples, where caste was more than identity, it was destiny. It did not matter if a blacksmith's son had the mind of a scholar, or if a merchant's child wished to pick up a sword. Ambition was a sin. Stepping outside one's caste was rebellion, and rebellion had consequences. This was a machine designed to benefit the few. The wealth of the land flowed upwards, never down. The Brahmins controlled knowledge. The Kshatriyas controlled power. The Vaishyas controlled trade, and the rest, they simply survived generation after generation, tied to the land, unable to rise. Society was divided, and yet no one questioned it, because questioning meant exile, and exile meant death. Then came the British. Britishers arrived with ships, guns, and a hunger for wealth. The British did not create caste. They found it. And like every ruling class, they saw an opportunity. The British were not interested in tradition. They were interested in control. And what better way to control India than to use the chains that already existed? They turned caste into census numbers, into official categories. They gave administrative posts to Brahmins, land to rich landlords, and labor to the lower castes. For the first time, caste was no longer just a social order. It became government policy. The economy changed and the industrial revolution came knocking. Factories needed workers. Railways needed builders. But caste still dictated who did what. The educated Brahmins became clerks in British offices. The merchants adapted to global trade. But the lower castes, they migrated to cities only to be given the worst jobs in the filthiest corners of Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. The untouchables who were once confined to villages now became the sewer cleaners of urban India. They were needed but never respected. India was no longer just a nation of castes. It was a colony where caste was used as a tool to exploit and divide. Then came independence, and with it, a promise. India would be free. But was it really? The chains were broken, or so we thought. The Constitution of India banned untouchability. Reservation policies were introduced. Caste-based discrimination was now a crime. The nation stood at a crossroad. The old world of caste hierarchy versus the new dream of equality. But a dream does not erase centuries of reality. The same patterns continued. The landlords still held land. The upper castes still dominated education and government. And the lower castes, they were given reservations, but not acceptance. Laws changed, but hiring managers still asked surnames. School admitted lower caste students, but their classmates still refused to sit beside them. Villages still had separate wells, separate temples, and separate cremation grounds. Urban India promised escape. In cities, caste was supposed to fade, but did it? The Dalit who moved to Delhi still struggled to find a home. The lower caste graduate in Mumbai still found himself at the bottom of corporate hierarchy. The village laborer who migrated to the city still ended up sweeping floors just like his ancestors. The system had evolved. It had learned to hide, but it had not disappeared. And today, in the age of progress, technology and globalization, we ask, has caste been finally conquered, or has it merely learned to hide in plain sight?
Belongs to the most oppressed community in the country, Dalits, formerly known as the untouchable.
21st century
There's
India.
nothing Hindu about what the BJP does.
Does India need a caste census? Now remember,
We say caste is history. We say meritocracy rules. But reality tells a different story. In corporate India, over 90% of top positions are occupied by upper castes. A pattern that remains unchanged for decades. In the judiciary, nearly 80% of High Court and Supreme Court judges hail from dominant castes, despite affirmative action policies. In India's top educational institutions, IITs, IIMs, AIMS, over 85% of faculty members belong to upper castes, while reserved category students face systemic bias. Among sanitation workers, over 95% are Dalits, a stark reminder that some jobs remain caste-bound, even in 21st century. Economically, the gaps remain. The top 10% of Indians own nearly 77% of country's wealth, and a disproportionate share of this belongs to upper caste families. Dalits own only 9% of India's total wealth, despite forming nearly 16% of total population. Land ownership remains skewed. Over 60% of Dalit households are landless or own less than 1 acre, while dominant castes continue to control agrarian wealth. Even in cities, Dalit ghettos exist. Villages still push lower caste families to the outskirts. Intercaste marriages still invite violence. In 2022 alone, over 500 cases of honor killings were reported, many linked to intercaste relationships. The locations have changed, but the boundaries remain. Caste was never just a social order. It was an economic strategy, a system designed to control wealth, power, and opportunity. And even today, that system remains intact, hidden behind degrees, salaries, and corporate titles, but alive as ever. So the question is, Are we truly free, or have we simply learned to live with our chains? India may have changed, but caste still lurks beneath the surface. And if you are waiting for society to fix itself, you will be waiting forever. You were not born to be a victim. No law, no reservation, no miracle will save you unless you decide to break this cycle yourself. But can you? The answer is yes. Ambedkar didn't accept the place society assigned him. He outlearned, outworked, and outsmarted the system. And K.R. Narayanan, who rose from untouchable background to become India's president. The key is in owning your identity and yet not letting it define your limits. Find your people, build alliances, uplift each other. If access isn't given, create it. The powerful moves in packs. So should you. Be like Pariyar, who mobilized millions for self-respect, or Chandrabhan Prasad, who built Dalit entrepreneurship networks, changing economic realities for thousands. Kalpana Saroj, who turned a life of operation into a multi-million-dollar empire. Or Rajesh Saraya, India's first Dalit billionaire, who mastered global markets instead of waiting for a seat at someone else's table. Perceive the system as a tool and not as a destination. The real victory is in rising beyond it, rather than complaining about how easy it is for others in the race. Spend that time learning how money works, own land, build businesses, no matter how small the start seems. The fastest way to kill caste is to become too powerful for it to touch you. Caste won't die overnight, but you can kill it in your life today if you stop asking for permission and start taking what's yours. But here's the real question. Does the system wants you to rise, or is it just keeping you in check? They call it upliftment. Others call it a trap. In the next video, we unreveal the truth about reservation, who it really helps, who it holds back, and what they don't want you to see. So stay tuned with us, because breaking the chain is just the start. The real game is building an empire. The best way to fight a system built on silence is to make noise. So please like this video to help us reach more people. Share it so that these truths can't stay hidden, and subscribe to join a community that's dedicated to breaking chains and building change. Together, we don't just talk about change, we create it. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. There's so much more ahead.